Homestead. I'm Becky. Today's show is going to be about a little bird feeding station, putting a big draft horse in some stocks, and putting pulling shoes for competition on them. Also, I want you to notice the beautiful tobacco barns that have been converted into the stables. That will take place in Kentucky. And then I will be reading a few letters from my viewers. So let's go and look at the bird station. Having a bird station on the homestead is a really enjoyable way to attract the birds. When you're sitting on the patio, you can enjoy the different variety of birds in your neighborhood. Here is a nice example of a bird station. If you like to attract birds on your homestead, this is a really good example of what you can build. It's very simple. It's 3 4x4s, 8 feet long, and then the top one bolted in. What's nice about this is the birds land on the top of this and hop back and forth, and you can attract lots of birds at once. The different kinds of bird feed that are being fed here are suet, thistle, cracked corn, sunflower seed, and then wild bird seed. And that attracts, of course, almost every bird there is in the area here. This is a large metal bird feeder, and you fill it from the top. There's a little thing back here you pinch, and then you just raise the lid, which makes it really easy to feed. I really like this feeder. This is a little plastic feeder, and it looks like several birds can land on it at once, and it would hold the little tiny seed because the holes are really small. And this one looks like a well-worn old bird feeder, but it's still perfectly good. You fill this one through the top, and what's nice about this one is it has the glass, so you can see when it needs more seed. And then up here is the suet. It's just a little suet cage, and the woodpeckers land on that and peck it. So if you like to attract the birds, this is a really good design you can try. Wasn't that a nice idea? I just think that works out so nice and attracted such a variety. It was very enjoyable to sit and watch the birds. Okay, off we go to the converted tobacco barns to look at the draft horses, get their competition shoes applied. That is a really nice trip, so let's get started.
Down.
Look at my boots all muddy.
Trot. Attaboy. Good boy. Ho, back up.
Becky, I see another guy. I started him $50 laying.
Oh my gosh, you put this
My mom and dad decided they were going to try racing horses when I was 10. So
Now how old is this? A yearling?
she's a weanling. She will be technically a year-old in January.
Right.
All thoroughbreds, but she'll be a yearling in January.
And how old are they when you wean them? What age do you like to wean them?
I would like to wean them when they're 6 months.
Yeah, I like 6 months too.
5 or 6 months.
Some
Depending
people
on the mare.
do the 5, some people do the 4.
I do it depending on the mare. If the
How she's
mare's
looking.
getting too thin,
Yeah.
time for the baby to go.
Right. I'm here at Full Circle Farm in Kentucky with Denise, who breeds and raises thoroughbreds to sell. She makes her living doing this, and then her hobby is with the big heavy draft pullers. How long does a horse carry a baby?
About 11 months. 11 months and 10 days is technically what they say. We try to breed them once a year, usually a month after they've had their foal.
Oh, they breed right back a month after they've
yeah.
delivered a baby.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
interesting.
Well, in the thoroughbred world, the earlier the baby, the better, because they alternate a year old
Right.
on January 1st. So if one's born in May, he's technically only 6 months old.
Right,
But
so he's a
according
baby.
to everybody else, he's a year old.
So he's behind, basically.
So he's behind. So
I
you want
gotcha.
January. A lot of people want January and February foals.
So that's what they're shooting for.
So that's what they're shooting for.
I
So you
see.
try to breed them as quickly after they've had one
to reach that mark.
well, try to keep early foals.
Right. That makes sense.
The bloodlines can actually make or break you. I mean, you may have the best looking horse standing here in front of you, and if it's not by something that people like, or if it's by something that people just absolutely don't like.
So are they going more off the paper or more off the look of the horse?
It's kind of varied. There's been years where it was like all pedigree.
Wow.
And you know, you could have a horse that looked like nothing, but they had the pedigree. And they
Itself.
bought, and then there's been years where they kind of switched where it was more just the horse itself. And they're kind of coming back to a medium now where it's
50-50.
Yeah, you know, the horse
You
has
would
got to,
think.
well, the horse has got to have the look, but then especially if you're buying fillies,
Right.
then they're looking for residual value.
Right.
As possibly broodmare. So then she's got to have a little better pedigree, because you want to say, well, is she worth breeding when she gets done running?
So not only will they race this mare on the track, when she's done racing on the track, then they will breed her to have the babies for the next generation.
Right. Yeah, and when we get done taking care of all these mares and babies, we have our hobby is Belgians, pulling horses.
Oh, and I think Dave is putting some shoes on, so let's head over there and have a look at that.
I got 3-legged horse, so.
I saw one black one that was actually pretty short. Oh, no. What do you find again? That's what I'm like,
Last weekend, didn't you go?
Oh, I've seen some.
I'm here with David, Denise's husband, and he is here working on a heavy horse. How many horses do you keep here on the farm, the heavy drafts?
Oh, 11, usually 10 or 11. I mean, if we could afford to keep them, we'd have 25 or 30, but we try to pull in competitions with ours so they're not just staying out in the field. We don't do any farm work. We got a 7/8 mile racetrack, and I will drag the track with a chain iron to level it. But that's all the farm work that we do. We strictly pull them for competition horses.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. And how many shows do you go to per year?
Well, in 2007 and 2008, we made 65 shows.
So that's a lot of showing. Now I have to let Dave explain how much weight these big horses can pull, because it is so much. I didn't even believe it when they told me. So can you describe like a horse this size up here, how much they pull in a competition?
Well, a pair that's ready to pull and they've been trained and everything done, they'll pull 2.5 to 3 times their body weight. So if they weigh 4,000 pounds at a good competition, we pull 27 foot and 6 inches on sled pulls most of the time. They ought to be able to pull, 10,500 to 12,000 pounds, depending on the ground. The track plays a lot into it. On a class I sand track like in New York, our lightweight pair weighs 33.25, and we've pulled 10,500 distance.
Wow, I imagine 10,000 pounds being pulled by 2 horses. That is impressive. So would you take a minute to explain what all this is here behind us? I'm going to step back so you can get a good shot of this, and Dave could explain it.
Well, this is a set of shoeing stocks. I'm not willing or able to stand and hold their feet up, so I use the stocks. I use a strap, and I can pull their foot up and lay it here, and the back feet, I can pull those up and lay them there and strap them, and chains are around them so they can't get out and get hurt, and there's chains under them so they can't fall down and get hurt. They're designed for them to be safe and not be able to get out or hurt themselves.
In order to pull 10 to 12,000 pounds, these have huge cleats on them. So those horses can get traction and then it digs in the ground like that. But Dave's going to explain the procedure he does to put the shoe on the horse.
Well, first of all, you got to decide what shoe you got. This, I don't know if you can see it, but the toe is laid out. This is a front shoe. and this toe is more straight down, and this is a back shoe. A draft horse will pull on his toes in the front, and in the back they'll pull flat-footed. So that's the reason for the difference in design, because the front foot goes like this and the back is flat.
Oh, that's interesting.
On a draft horse, the biggest problem with these things is you'll hurt their tendons, their front tendons and their back tendons and their hocks. So when you're trimming or shoeing one, you want to leave all the heel you can leave and pull the shoe back as far as you can. And when you do that, when you leave all the heel you can and you pull the shoe back as far as you can, you'll elevate the heels and lower the toe, and they'll take a shorter stride. You don't want a draft horse to overstride too far because they can't. It's momentum. They can't keep their momentum. If they'll take a short stroke, they have more power.
I noticed today that Dave did something that I have been wanting to do as a non-professional farrier, but I didn't know I could. So here's Dave's tip.
I just use a regular 16-ounce roofing hammer. It's less strokes, less times you hit the nail, and it's less evasive on your elbow and your shoulder.
And a real farrier hammer that you're supposed to use is a little tiny hammer. It has a little metal head on it, and it has a little short handle, and I've never been comfortable with one of those. And now that I see Dave uses a regular hammer, that's what I'm gonna do in the future. Well, I wanna give a big thank you to David and Denise for letting us come and show us around their homestead here in Kentucky. Off to Florida we go. Here we are back from the farm. That was fun. Thank you, Denise and David. Now what we're gonna do is read a couple letters from some of my viewers. This first letter is from Todd, who is an administrator at the Community Building Initiative in Chicago. And Todd writes, "Thanks for the video on building a small chicken coop. Are you in a warm climate? Do you have predators trying to dig under the fence?" Well, we are in a warm climate because we live in North Florida. And we did have a problem with, I think it was a raccoon trying to dig under the fence. But how we solved that problem was really easy. We cut like a 1-foot piece of wire, and the wall of the chicken coop came down, and we just simply attached that flat on the ground to the PVC pipe. So the predator would be standing on the wire and couldn't dig, and they weren't smart enough to lift it up with their nose and get under it and dig. So that worked out perfectly, and it was an easy fix. Thanks, Todd. This next letter is from Erica. She writes, "Hi, Becky. I just love your series. I happily subscribed. Can't wait to see more. Your log cabin series reawakened my love of log cabins. I'm 22 and have started the planning for home ownership. And I love the idea of a log cabin kit. What pride you must feel about building your own home. It must be great." Well, Erica, a log cabin kit has worked out really, really well for us. I am the primary builder, so a girl can do it and it's not a problem. So I encourage you to go ahead and save and get your kit. Okay, this next letter is from Joanne, and she writes, "I've been interested in homesteading for years, but as a single woman, don't want to go too far out in a rural area. Things are very difficult financially right now, but I'm trying to save a little to buy some land and build a cabin. I wanted to buy some land in a warmer area. I live in New Jersey. So I could garden year-round. I'm growing some lettuce, spinach, and parsley indoors under grow lights. It seems like areas where the prices are lower have no water or electrical hookups or are extremely cold. Do you have any temperate areas you can recommend to look for land which don't get hammered with hurricanes, tornadoes, pollution, and scorpions?" Okay, let me try to answer these questions one by one. First of all, that you're a single woman, I think that's fine. Joanne, I think you can still accomplish a lot, so just take your time and read, make sure you educate yourself before you tackle a project. I'm sure you'll do fine. Next, I wanted to answer the question about land and the cheaper land not having water or power on them already. And that's fine too, Joanne, because that's exactly how we purchased our property. It didn't come with, excuse me, any well or power on it. So you know, a lot of times when you're a homesteader, you have to take things step by step, especially if you don't have a lot of money. In the end, it worked out fine for us, so I'm sure it will for you too. As far as recommending land, I mean, everybody is so different in what they need and want. The only thing I think was a good idea is choosing somewhere warmer where you could garden year round. I think that's a great idea for a homesteader. I have a little story to tell you because Gloria talks about not wanting land where there's scorpions and pollution and hurricanes. When we first came to our property, we were walking around looking at it, and of course it was all woods. And unbeknownst to me, a scorpion crawled up my pants and bit me in the belly button. So I almost had a fit when that happened. I was screaming and yelling and trying to get the thing off me. I'm sure the neighbors thought the new lady was crazy. And after that, we were living in this really, really ratty old camper. It was just a little pop-up that we had borrowed from a friend of ours. Well, early in the morning, my son was sleeping on one side and my husband and I were sleeping on the other. My husband had gone off to work and my son just called me in the most terrifying voice. He's like, "Mom." So I jump up, of course, and I run over there because we all know our kids' voice when they're in trouble. So I go over there and I said, "What?" And he said, "There's a snake on me." And I'm looking, but it's kind of dark still. It was just barely dawn. And I'm like kind of leaning over and I'm saying, "Where?" And he was afraid to move. He was stiff as a corpse. And he said, "Right there." So when I leaned over a little further, I saw the snake head was literally like looking at him. It was his face and the snake looking right at him. So by me leaning over though, it had frightened the snake. And it was about a 4-foot snake and it had crawled away somewhere into the camper. So if you want to be a homesteader and kind of start from scratch, you will have little interesting things to deal with. We did end up looking up at the library, I did, what kind of snake it was. And it was just a harmless Florida pine rat snake. So we did go to bed the next night not being too worried about it. Well, thanks for all your letters, and it's nice to hear from everybody. Happy homesteading. Bye. I'm here with David, Denise's husband, and he is here working on a heavy horse, so I'm just going to ask him a few questions about the drafts. And I forgot the first question. What was it?